Is there any hope for Númenor now that out of the entire population of the island, there are just two good people left?
Did we just see a One Ring prototype tested by Mirtania?
And who on this podcast is going to be brave enough to blame Disa for all of the misery happening at Khazad-dûm? All this and more in our discussion of The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power TV series on Amazon, Season 2, Episode 5, here on Bustin' Blockbuster. Hey everybody, welcome to Bustin' Blockbusters. I'm Matt. Today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 5 of The Rings of Power, which is currently on Amazon, aired just a few days ago. It's entitled Halls of Stone, written by Nicholas Adams. And once again, we have a twofer director. We have Louise Hooper and Sanaa Hamri. Hopefully I did better that time with the pronunciation of Sanaa. I apologize for the way I mispronounced it last time. I'm Matt, of course, and joining me is someone who will stab you on the back with a sword anytime she gets a chance. It's Priscilla. Hi, Priscilla.
That's not true. I just want to make clear I'm a loyal and very, very nice person. Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, and you're absolutely correct because you're always right. That's 1 and B, as we learned from last week. At any rate, let's not delay anymore. We want to talk about this episode, and let's start with our ratings for this episode. Priscilla, what did you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10?
This is the second favorite episode, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, so the first episode was my favorite. This is my second favorite right now. So I will give like a 9 out of 10 double S.
Double S.
This is Mickey Sauron. So he's back, folks. He is back, and every time he's back, it goes up. It goes up. There is no denying. Sauron is the man of the hour. He is the true star of the series. We can have a discussion actually during. He is also becoming slowly like a character that you cannot not love, but Sauron is kind of like he's amazing, yeah, and he wants more rings. Who can blame him, right? He wants more rings, but unfortunately, Celebrimbor is being a little bit too difficult, and Durin is still very suspicious of Anata, which I have no idea why. The guy is completely, he's obviously a good person. So what to do? Well, manipulation there is. Manipulation is the name of the game, and Anatar is our man here. We also see Louise in Númenor again, unfortunately. And Kemin is slowly becoming, as people are saying in the interwebs, like he is the Joffrey of the Rings of Power, kind of. I think he's evil because he has such a terrible haircut. I mean, no, but Joffrey also had a terrible haircut. I remember.
He did not. Listen, we are on the Double P Media Network.
Oh, yeah,
the home of the Joffrey of podcast. You cannot go slamming Joffrey if you're planning on slamming Kemin. You have to distinguish Kemin as not anywhere near the greatest character ever written by George R.R. Martin, perhaps the greatest character ever written by anybody. The Joffrey of podcast. Yes, be sure to check it out.
You're completely right. I apologize here. I spoke out of turn. Let's see that Joffrey haircut was too traditional for my tastes, perhaps. And but Kemin is like, it's a crime against humanity. I mean, the first season it was even worse, so we had an improvement here. But he looks so like he has this punchable face, and I don't know the name of the actor. I'm sorry. It's not nothing against you personally. It's just like the character. And his girlfriend is also like, what a couple. Oh my God. I mean, no wonder that these two want to be together. They like, who who could stand them if not each other? Nobody would.
Yeah, they're in a class all by themselves. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I really, really think that Elendil is thinking about the post-birth abortion right now.
As long as he's not eating cats, then I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your love for Sauron and everything. And I got to say that, some of the manipulation stuff was cool. Celebrimbor writing that damn letter gave him the perfect open in order to manipulate, in order for Annatar to manipulate Celebrimbor, Brimby. But there's something about, and it's not really about Sauron himself or the way that he's portrayed. It's about some of the underlying writing that's been going on for season 1 about him that really brought this episode down for me. I only gave it 8.2 out of 10, what I like to call triple Fs.
Triple Fs?
Yeah. Filthy fixation fantasies. I am just not a fan of them doing this whole Galadriel, Sauron's interest in Galadriel in this way, and then playing that up as a dynamic for him. When he was playing with the Smith's hair, I nearly threw up. I cannot stand the dynamic of Sauron wanting so desperately to be after Galadriel, and now he's doing that. That dropped everything a whole point for me, to be perfectly honest. And as far as Kemen goes, the thing that I didn't like about that is the only thing, if the guy had a mustache, I swear to God, he would have twisted it on this episode. Does he have a mustache? He's not even that memorable to me.
No, Pharazôn has a whole beard.
Pharazôn's got a beard. He could twist his mustache a little bit off to the side, I suppose. But it seems to me like the bad guys outside of Sauron. Let's not forget that Sauron's a bad guy, Priscilla. He's a bad guy. He's the villain of this story. But the rest of them are all written so one-dimensional that it just makes it almost seem like a kid show, like it has to be telegrammed to you. And even Bear McCreary's score this week, which, I am a huge fan of Bear McCreary, but there are some things that he just has. I do not need to see or hear Galadriel's theme as soon as the blanket comes off of the cage. I know it's going to be Galadriel. I watched last week, Bear. You don't have to keep saying her theme, nor do you have to play Sauron's theme when Pharazôn's looking at the Palantir. I know that Sauron uses the Palantir to communicate with people. We've known how he corrupted the Steward of Gondor from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So we don't need to hear Sauron's theme there. Because of that, I'm not even doing a musical analysis week. So I'm punishing basically everybody except Bear McCreary by not doing that. But it's all just blame it on Bear, because that was just too one-handed for me. So only 8.2 out of 10. But who cares what I think, right? We all care what Priscilla thinks, but nobody cares what I think. I do care what you think, folks. So please reach out to us at Bust Blockbuster on the site formerly known as Twitter, or you can send emails to me at mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. You can also find the host of our podcast, and that is Double P Media, all over the webs, everywhere except OnlyFans. At the word double with the letters PHQ on all social platforms. And if you're looking for our videos of our podcast, if you're just listening to the audio versions, you can find videos of them on the Double P Media YouTube. That's the word double, the letter P, the word media, youtube.com/at the word double, the letter P, the word media. Subscribe while you're there. Bubba's put out a call. He wants 10,000 subscribers by the end of Only Murders in the Building, which is a great podcast. You should watch that on the YouTube channel and subscribe and everything there as well. Lots of stuff coming down the pike also for the rest of the year for Double P Media. So you'll want to hit that notification bell while you're at the YouTube channel so that you know exactly what we're covering next. With that said,
just a second. I just wanted to say, like you were talking about the season 1 to season 2, like there was an improvement, but this choice for Sauron and Galadriel's dynamics, I think there are like two things happening. I don't think they intended that in first season. I remember reading some interviews or like watching podcasts. I don't remember now because has been 2 years between the seasons, so like things got lost. And people like me, girls, when we saw what was happening between Galadriel and back then Halbrand, we immediately recognize as a kind of toxic romantic relationship dynamic immediately. I'm not the only one. And I've noticed, because I've been some sort of part of this fandom a little bit, so all the media, the social media that I have, everybody, most of people from like my persuasion, let's say, we were very intrigued by this notion, because there is also an element in the books that Sauron, still to the third age, he keeps trying to poke into Galadriel's mind. So that really sounded for women like that awful ex-boyfriend that sometimes sends you some unsolicited message. I think what they meant in the first season is that, like, Sauron, he was the number 2 of Morgoth. So he was basically, okay, now I am the new leader. I need the number 2. He could not get Adar to be his number 2. So I think what he was trying to say to Galadriel was that they would share power on an equal footing, like to make the offer more attractive, not necessarily a romantic offer. But once they got hold of the spin, that's just a theory. I think they decided to go push a little bit our buttons, because the series has been slowly but surely trying to push the buttons from the book fans and the fandom that has acquired. So yes, I know that for the male, like most of the male fans, and you're not the only one, they're rolling your eyes about this supposedly dynamic. You're not the only one. But I think they let that in the show to appeal to me. So you're not, and
yeah, but if you're going to do it, why are you going to do it so creepy, Priscilla? I mean, there was nothing but intention in this episode, and
yes,
so if they did that too much,
yeah.
How does that gain you? How does that gain your respect as a viewer if you just get creeped out by it? I understand that maybe they understand the dynamic that a man trying to hold power over a woman has, but the thing is, it just, you don't need to gas it up that much.
It's supposed to be disgusting. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be, you're so, Sauron in this iteration is supposed to be a sleazy, manipulative, creepy guy that actually he wants power. He's a sociopath.
Yeah, but that doesn't make me enjoy the episode more. That makes me enjoy it less.
Yeah, because you don't like this kind of things, creepy things.
I don't know any human being that would like that.
I think it's very interesting to see that depicted.
Okay, well.
So it's kind of like point of view, actually. You have one point of view, I have another. I really like to see this being shown as, this guy is creepy, get out of here. He is not playing with your hair because he kind of likes you. He's playing with your hair because you remind him of his last crush. And he cares nothing about you. This is just manipulation.
They changed Sauron's fixation into a sexual one, and that's the thing that I don't like.
Okay, like her uncle created the Silmarils because of the reflection of the tree from her hair, because her hair power was so big, Matt, that he gave it idea to the creation, to this elf artifact that basically people fought, died, killed because of it. So this is what we're talking about, the power of Galadriel's hair.
Well, I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. Let's move on to some news here. Let's move on to some news. The ratings are down, as are across most shows. All of the shows have been suffering down ratings, and I think a good portion of it is because of the long wait between seasons that we've been getting. You still on broadcast television get things fairly quickly, but not anymore on any kind of streaming service.
Yeah.
So Amazon, despite that, and despite people protesting Sauron and Galadriel, is going to continue with this. Is going to continue with the series. They're still committed, according to sources. And the Hollywood Reporter is the ones that reported this. But according to sources close to them, they're still continuing down a 5-season path. So there's been lots of people who have been saying, you know, this show's still on. It's so terrible. Why didn't they just end it? Well, $750 million investment so far is why they're not going to quit this show. That's why Amazon's going to see this through to the end, is because the only way that they start to make some of that money back is if they get to the end and get all of the episodes watched and get people to watch Prime Video, which now they're putting ads on unless you pay an extra amount of money, so that they get some more money that way. I mean, the only way that they can start to recoup any of this, and they're never going to break even on this, but that's not the point of it. The only way they're going to recoup on it is if they do finish this series. And so that's what I'm thinking that Jeff Bezos or whoever's running that part of the organization is thinking. You've read the article and you had some interesting points, though, that you wanted to bring up. So let's talk about those.
Oh, like in my research about the first season, I came across some sort of like stakeholders meeting. Like there was like actually it was a blog about investments discussing the Amazon's reports for the stakeholders, and we have to remember Amazon Prime Video and streaming, they are in a very, very different position than any other, like HBO Max and like Netflix, because this is just to get more subscriptions for their Prime program. So in this meeting, what it was saying that the main goal of investing in big series for them is to attract subscribers, and the reason why Tolkien was very interesting to them was because they figure out that they have already exhausted the North American market and they want to expand worldwide, and Tolkien has bigger appeal than like many other authors, so that's why they invested so much. And according to this meeting, they kind of already recouped in the first year what they spent with the rights.
By that's a quarter of that. That's $250 million
worldwide by the number of new subscribers that subscribed by the time the series came on. It's not North America. It's about like South America, Europe, Asia, you know, other markets that they are opening up for the Prime. And that's what it was told there. But there is also the other aspect. It's not only about audience numbers, but it's about social media impact. That's why they are putting out the episodes on Thursdays instead of like Fridays now, because when you put on Thursdays, then you have like 3-4 days of impact on the social media before you get Sunday that has traditionally Max dominates. And
I can tell you another big reason why, at least as far as the US is concerned. Prime Video also has a contract with the NFL, the biggest market that you can have in the United States. and they do Thursday night games. So they don't want something that gets released, even if it's just a few hours after that football game. They don't want something compete. They don't want to compete with themselves. And so therefore, I believe that was the big reason for the schedule change.
So you have two reasons, basically.
Yeah. But they basically, they're trying to make sure that they get their money however they can get their money, because the NFL games, they play commercials on those. Because it's just like network TV. All of the streamers do that for NFL games around here. It doesn't matter whether you've paid a subscription price or not. So, and I'm cool with that, because the NFL demands that, because the NFL has sponsors and what have you. But social media impact can make a big difference, though, and you're absolutely right. But one of the things that you brought up here in the notes is something. You brought up a quote about the fact that there are people watching who say that they hate watching.
They hate,
so they watch just to hate on it too. But it's not as many people as it was, and despite that, I guess Amazon's saying, let's just go ahead and go through with this.
I don't know. It's so sketchy, like with the numbers, because they are streamers. They don't release it because of residuals or whatever. The thing that it really strikes me is that, like I was commenting with Carlos, my another person that I collaborate with, like already in the first season, we were like, hey, there's a lot of YouTubers watching and hating, and people on the comments watching and hating, but they come back every week to watch and hate.
Right.
And this was something that we noticed in the first season, and it wouldn't stop. And I was like, phenomenon. And I also noticed, this is an anecdote, but I also noticed that in the weeks leading to when they started dropping the trailers, that the first season came back to their top 10. So people are rewatching the first season, which is also like something they notice for the numbers. So my whole thing is like, Amazon, it seems that they cannot, even if they lose, they are not losing, because it's such a big company that they are on this level where they are too big to fail, kind of.
Yeah. One of the things that Amazon really looks at, and this comes from insiders in regards to the Wheel of Time, people like John from What Up, and Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern. And I'm assuming that the dynamic is the same here with Rings of Power. Completion rates are very important to Amazon for some reason. And yeah, I don't know what the completion rate is of this particular series, and we probably won't know for a couple years. It seems like it takes that long for any information to come out in terms of what the companies are really looking at, or if the show were to get canceled and then all of a sudden Amazon presents its evidence. Like they presented their evidence as to why they're not renewing season 4 of Wheel of Time yet. Because they really need to see an increase in completion rates for season 3. God. So
I'm very nervous here. I really like Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
I don't want it to be canceled.
Well, I think Amazon went into the whole streaming thing looking at the Netflix model and thinking that worked. And everybody knows that the Netflix model actually doesn't work. That's why Netflix has been so bad at renewing series, because as they get more expensive, they just cut it loose and put on a new, cheaper one. Because the subscription model really doesn't work. That's why all of these streamers are basically going back to cable television in a lot of ways. The point is, there's too long of a gap between seasons. It is something that you brought up on the notes here. And to use Wheel of Time as an example, I mean, at least here, there's a 5-season plan. That's still tying actors up for 10 years, which is long, but Game of Thrones did it with Maisie Williams and Sophie Turner and that kind of thing. So, or close to. I think that they were contracted in 2009 and they ended in 2017 or 18. So that can be done anymore. But 14 books of the Wheel of Time series, and only so far in 2 seasons, really only adapting 2 books with a little bit of the third strung in it. They're going to have to cut massive storylines just to get it down to a 7-season arc. And that's still 15 years of tying up actors' lives, tying up the showrunners' lives, tying up all of these lives, because they won't get the green light, because there won't be a release date in time to get a green light. And so you're starting even further behind each cycle, especially if we're having to wait till season 3 before season 4 even gets greenlit with Wheel of Time. I mean, you think they had the green light for season 3 before season 2 even came out and were able to start working on it. I'm sure that Rafe is doing stuff for Wheel of Time right now, and perhaps some of his writers, and they're getting together and they're thinking about things, but then they have to just sit and wait until 2025.
It must be very frustrating for them.
Yeah.
More than for us, because we just sit and wait. They have to, like, the uncertainty is infuriating.
Well, and then they sign these exclusive contracts where they can't get any other work while they're waiting. Some of them do, you know. I mean, you can't expect Rafe to go off and run several other shows in the meantime while he's waiting on Wheel of Time to come back, because what if one of those is a hit and it requires all of his time?
They have to ask permission, right, to take another job and stuff. It's like the Hollywood contracts of before, like from the 30s, and when the studio system were that you signed a 7-year contract, and if you had to do something else, you had to ask permission for a Warner or a Golden Mayer or something.
And Amazon is following the same model that Warner Brothers Discovery is following. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So you like fantasy? Okay, well, we'll give you one fantasy show this year, the next fantasy show the next year. And so you get a new fantasy show every year, which is great for us, but it doesn't do anything for these actors that are having to wait 2 years, for these writers that are having to work for 2 years, these set designers that are having to work for 2 years. Fortunately, film scoring, and I know this personally, you know, you can pretty much work on anything anytime, because it's about your time and when you can do it. Lauren Balfe is making all kinds of money working for Mission Impossible. He worked for His Dark Materials, Wheel of Time simultaneously. You know, he's got those guys in my field of work. It doesn't really affect them, except sometimes there are tough deadlines because they have to wait and then do it, you know. But other than that, everybody else is just so affected by it. It's just driving me crazy. And of course, it's harder to get fans to come back. How do you remember what happened 2 years ago? You got to rewatch the series again. And not everybody has time to watch 10 episodes or even 8 episodes anymore of something before a new series starts.
Consider this. I don't want to get emotionally attached to a series. I don't know it's going to get canceled or not. So this affects completion rates too. If it's someone like me, I'm not going to watch a second season if I don't know there's a third season coming, you know?
True.
So, I mean, I really think people watching the first season Rings of Power in preparation to the second season, because I saw people doing that on YouTube, and I saw the rankings, and I was surprised because they were not even like advertising that. I remember when House of the Dragon was coming, that like HBO was kind of advertising some sort of marathon or Game of Thrones marathon for people to get prepared, but they didn't do that. So it was like a spontaneous phenomenon, but it's not everybody who has this like Tolkien fan commitment to anything Tolkien. Okay, even if I don't like, I want to see some, elf action and stuff.
True. Plus, you were talking about the haters and everything. This country, and I can't speak internationally, I don't have any experience recently being international, but I do know that hate watching is something that is very popular here in the United States. It gets more views on YouTube channels. You don't even know how they actually feel about a Star Wars show or not, because they're too busy just hating on it, because that's what gets them views, which makes them money.
You mean rating, ranting, and outrage, like fake outrage and things like that? No?
Yeah. Well, and just flat out mean criticism, and things that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, if you don't like something, fine, say it, but don't say it just to get views. Even if you if you're just like most of this stuff, I gave this an 8.2, which is low for me. I never rate anything below a 7, but I'm not going to go out and blast on it except in a funny way.
I want to see the day where you give a 6 and a 5.
It'll never happen. I never give anything lower than a 7. Maybe one episode of Penny Dreadful City of Angels, PDDOA.
Oh, no, really? It was that bad?
It was that bad. Anyway, speaking of bad, what's worse? Sending your husband to talk your king down, and then him returning, not only having failed, but he comes back and he's got a promotion. Or letting Anatar play with your hair in some kind of weird Galadriel fixation, creepy fantasy.
Well, just for the sake of your own fixations, I will argue that letting Anatar play with your hair is worse, because I want to see you fight this this reasoning. Because I know you already said how you feel, so you already gave up.
How can you deal a dwarf? You such a wonderful culture and everything, and you think your husband is strong. You think that he's able to get the job done. You've seen him get the job done over and over and over again, and he comes back with a gold collar. I mean, how disappointing. Here you are, you've lost your job.
A tragedy, yeah.
You've lost your job. And then this guy, who can't even accomplish the task that you sent him out on, he gets a promotion. How does that make you feel about the male species? Let alone playing with hair. I mean, my gosh, it's a man's world. And Disa needs to just throttle some sense into him. She needs to actually go into the king's room and throttle some sense into him. Take that ring away from him. Throw it down there. Give it to the Balrog. Let's be done with it. That's why Disa's situation is worse. Folks will put that on the poll. I don't expect to win that one. If I win that one, I worry about you all as listeners. What's worse, Priscilla? Looking into a Palantir and destroying churches because Sauron told you to do that? Or just being Kemen?
We all know that being Kemen must be like a hell on earth. Your father pretty much tells you that you're cursed, that you were born as a cursed child, that like your mother looked into your eyes as you were a baby and said, this boy ain't good. This boy is cursed. And then you got a bad haircut. Then you start acting out, and the way you start acting out is actually invading temples and bullying people and getting your ass kicked. If you are Kemen, you cannot win. Even when your father is the dictator of the island, you're still a failure. Imagine that. Imagine being the son of the king and is still being known as a failure.
Priscilla,
it's worse. It's worse.
You're so wrong. Who walked away from that fight just fine with Elendil in custody and still with his head on his shoulders? Kemen. It's better than Valandil's situation, where Valandil's dead, D-E-D, dead. And on the other hand, you go destroying churches, man, you're going to get the right wing after you. Nobody wants Trump MAGA.
It's not a church. It was a temple.
Temple, church, they're all the same thing to me. You're destroying churches. You're destroying temples, you're destroying churches, and that's just gonna make Númenor great again people very mad. And so you've got nothing, you're gonna have a coup on your hands. It's definitely worse. Plus, who wants to talk to Sauron, this guy who twirls girls' hair because they have blonde hair like Galadriel? Nobody wants to talk to Sauron. That's just
I want to talk to Sauron.
Yeah, well, you can have the Palantir then.
No, I don't want to get addicted to Palantir talking.
All right. No. Well, we'll put that on the poll. I don't expect her to win that one either. If I do win that one, I worry about the audience. Let's talk about this episode. We've got several topics on the tiny wheel of topics here. More rings, more power. All things Eregion. Pardon me. It's all Eregion. More rings, more power. It's all things Eregion. It's all Disa's fault. Is the second topic. Of course, it is. Can you now figure out who's going to be the one brave enough to say that? All things Númenor. Yeah. And then all things elves outside of Eregion. And so we've got odds and ends, maybe. I don't know. I don't have any odds and ends this week. But let's give the wheel a spin. Where did it land, Priscilla? Where did it land?
It's all Disa's fault. All things dwarves.
Look, I mean, come on. You talk your husband into telling the king to get rings. Then you try to talk him out of it. In the meantime, who wakes up the Balrog? Who lets the Balrog know that you're there? Close your mouth, Disa. You didn't need that stone that bad. I don't care whose birthday it was. You did not need to sing that loud to get that stone to sing back at you. You know what? You dropped it. If you drop it, you pay for it. You just move on. Not only that, but she totally paid more than she had to. Poor Durin, he's not making any money just working in the mines here. Thank God he got that promotion. Disa, you did wrong. You did wrong this whole episode. You didn't go to the king yourself because you've been successful when you talk to the king. You've been successful, girl. But you leave it up to some half-witted prince who happens to be your husband. You got to take matters into your own hand. You've got to take responsibility for singing at that stone and making that Balrog recognize that you were there. Everything that's going to happen to Khazad-dûm from here on out is Disa's fault.
No.
On the other hand, I love the dwarf story. It was great. I love the humanity of it all. So there's my faux argument against Disa. I really don't blame Disa. I mean, it's a bit.
No, nobody should blame Disa. How could they know that these rings had this like terrible side effect of enhancing a dwarf's greed? And that's what I really
I'm still convinced that Disa didn't need to sing that loud in order to find that stone once it fell down the steps. First of all, be a better shortstop, Disa. Secondly, you followed it all the way down there without any problem. Just look around before you go. She saw an open cavern and was like, "Oh, what's this? Let's see how the acoustics are," and sang.
I thought you were done saying that it was Disa's fault, and then you went for a second.
Went right back into it, didn't I? That's because I got nothing else for this. I enjoyed this storyline. But what did you like about it? What got you?
Yeah, so basically, I really like that because the rings are not supposed to affect the dwarves. The dwarves are not that affected by these magical creations, possibly because they are not creations of Iluvatar himself. They are creations of Alle, which was a Valar. By the way, it was the Valar that Sauron was working for before he decided to go on and being seduced by Morgoth. The thing is, like the dwarves are made differently from men and from elves, and because of that they have different characteristics. One of them is that, as we saw on the trilogy, when Gandalf says they dug so deep because they were greedy. They have this love for like manipulation, for the creation of things. They are really into it. And the thing is that the rings, they don't give them this in the show, this connection to sorrow, and they are not supposed to succumb to this thing, but they are succumbing, as we can see, for the greedy. So you see through the episode how Durin's father, he's changing his behavior. I thought it was a very good point, the way they showed that Durin's father is not simply out of the blue having visions of the future. He has this intuition. That's what they're showing, where they should dig to find the sun. But on the other hand, how it's reacting to it, it's not like, I have a higher purpose with it doesn't have this connection with Sauron. So it just makes him more. But there is something that I think Ned of the Rings was like pointing out. It was like, then why it's confusing when Durin goes to talk to Celebrimbor that there's something wrong with these rings, and he says, "My father was never that greedy. This is not my father." So if the ring is enhancing something that is already there, and it's contradictory. I chose to read because it's textually there, saying that the dwarves are kind of susceptible to this kinds of greedy and like the dragon sickness that we saw in the Hobbit trilogy too. That actually Durin was not lying to himself, but he was just communicating that not to this degree, that he never saw his father like this. This is like abnormal. This is to this degree. So I really like that. I thought I never thought it was confusing until Nerd of the Rings pointed out. Nevertheless, there is the whole thing about the time compression, that things are happening too fast, because this is all in one episode. So remember, I really like the distances. I really like the maps that they are doing. So you saw Aaron running in one episode and arriving on the other episode. This I like, because this I can read, okay, a month must be passed for one thing to another. But the whole thing with the dwarves, because they are really, you cannot see how the time passed with the dwarves. So that's,
I don't know. I mean, to me, the group going to get the doors,
yeah,
and coming back, that kind of shows an indication of time passing.
That indicates time passing. But I mean, we are talking about one episode. So if they had divided this, you know what I'm saying? Like Aaron started running one episode and he arrives in the other episode
at the end.
Yeah. So I would the way they are cutting the episodes, because they are cutting by like plots. They are grouping plots and putting these plots together in one episode. It's easier if one on hand, it's easier for you to follow because you're getting this in book.
Right.
But on the other hand, it kind of tricks you in the immersion of things, because the time is compressed. They compress, 5,000 years in 200 years. So it's a lot.
Okay.
And this is not going to get better. Like, I have to get used to it, because that was the choice that was made. Other than that, I love it. I love the dwarves. It's great. They're great.
I did love seeing the doors too. I know I just mentioned it, but I thought that was really cool. And I'm liking this Norby character a lot too. He doesn't get much in the episode, other than a couple of things with Celebrimbor, who's got so much to say and so little time, evidently. But it was just it was cool. The dwarf stuff I'm never disappointed in, but it is all Disa's fault. Anything else on the dwarves?
It's not clear if it's the Watcher in the water or if it's the Balrog, because Jesus was going, there was water there, so it could be.
Oh, I see. I just thought that was that the wave was created by the scream of the Balrog, just creating a compression wave. Maybe I'm
I
wrong.
don't know. Yeah, I think traditionally there are two creatures there.
Right. You're right. You're right. All right. Good point to bring up. Let's spin the wheel. Where did it land, Priscilla?
It landed more rings, more power. All things Eregion.
Okay. Your favorite subject and my least favorite subject. I did feel I'm starting to just kind of give up on Celebrimbor. Brimby is just an idiot who's going to get manipulated like crazy. But the thing that I really did like, and I never thought that I would see, was somebody disappearing while wearing a ring, and then when it's taken off of them, they reappear. I thought that was something that we would only see in the Lord of the Rings. But I guess maybe he's trying. I mean, obviously, we know from lore that the One Ring will be made in the fires of Mordor, but he's got to figure out how to do it, I guess, before he commits to the final product. So was this a One Ring prototype, so to speak? It kind of shifted her between the unseen world and the seen world, the same way that it does Frodo and Bilbo. So.
Like now that the series is much improved, you just look at season 1 for more entertaining, more like visually stunning than it was. The decision of swapping the creations, like the order of creations of the rings, it's mind blowing right now because it's so crazy, and
he's got to test the product before he commits to the final design.
It doesn't but it's not how it was supposed to be. I really like that they are showing them working together, like trying some things, failing, trying another things, having this idea, this back and forth. Oh, we changed the Eloi. We just did that and that. I really like these discussions. And I really like also that Sauron's, Anata's manipulation of Brimby was to say, if these rings are not working the way they are supposed to work, it's because there is deception at the origin of these rings, and the deception is yours.
Yes, that was perfect.
Was like,
why did Brimby write that letter in the first place? Why do that? That's silly. That's stupid, Brimby. What are you doing? Oh, and now, of course, he's going to blame himself because Anatar's convinced him. Because Anatar, is something that Celebrimbor evidently just, worships in some way, shape, or form, even when he disagrees with him.
Yeah, I thought it was really surprising to see him say no. And say no more than once. Yeah. And saying, so I was like, yeah, Brimby, go girl.
Yeah. But on the other hand, he's lying to his boss, and if anything goes wrong, he's going to blame his underlings. This sounds exactly like middle management to me. This guy he would be very successful in corporate middle management. It's like, tell the boss that you've made the quotas, and then when they find out and look at the books that you actually didn't make the quotas, well, you just blame it on the workers.
I think it's great that Anata's manipulation is happening in many levels to many people. He knows, he checks someone out, knows the weak points. He has one answer for this person. He goes talk to Brimby. He has another answer to Brimby, and when he presents himself after Brimby spoke as the reasonable one, as the good cop.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole bit with Mordania was, I mean, I don't like that whole fixation dynamic, but him convincing Merdania, that it was Brimby who was the figure that she saw that was all the dark evil one when she was in the unseen world instead of him. That was a good stroke right there. That was smart,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'll give Sauron credit for being very smart with his manipulation. Just I don't appreciate his desires
For
for Darth Vader.
for someone who does not have genuine emotional reactions, Sauron, he can read emotions very well
Too
in
emotional.
other people.
Sauron too emotional. That's exactly what
No,
it is.
I don't think he's emotional. He was just like Galadriel's hair is the stuff of legends for elves, and elves are very much into hair and jewelry. If you haven't noticed,
Okay.
they are vain that
So
way. So if somebody,
he's just role playing the elf part of him, right? He just role
oh,
for putting on a show so that everybody thinks,
he
oh,
was
he's just being a typical elf.
everything that Sauron does not have just one usage. He's both indulging in his weird fixation, as you call it, and he's feeding Myrddania's ego by comparing her to Galadriel's hair, comparing her hair to Galadriel's hair, because everybody knows that Brimby's grandfather created the biggest, the greatest of the elfish artifacts because of Galadriel's hair. So it's like
Okay.
saying to the, like you could be a model, you could be a supermodel. You just look like Linda Evangelista. You could be a supermodel to a girl.
Patooey, I say. What else about this storyline? Anything else?
uh, oh God. I just wonder what it's like because we know the Eregion is going to be attacked next episode. Because as we know from the trailers and from the interviews that the war, like the battle is going to take 3 episodes. And we just have 6, 7, and 8. So the Orcs are finally arriving next episode. I'm very curious to see how the Halbrand to Adar and Anata to Celebrimbor will work out. Because to Adar, possibly we don't know because we didn't see, but Adar and Halbrand they are in agreement. So
Right.
if Adar is marching through to Eregion, it's because Halbrand infiltrated Eregion at some point to Adar. But we know that actually Halbrand doesn't exist. That Adar is still living the first season. And
Right.
Eregion, Anata, how Anata is going to spin this attack to Celebrimbor. So I'm really curious how this will play out.
Yeah. Probably not good for Eregion.
Definitely not.
Either way. Not good for anybody involved. But except for maybe Sauron. I'm sure that he'll make it work out for him somehow because it always does. My final thoughts on that, I guess I'll just say, you know, move away from the fixation and I'm fine. And that's all. That's all I want to say about it. I mean, it's no point in just bringing up the same point over and over when it's the one point that I have because it just made me not care about really any of it. Which is my fault, but that's me. Let's spin the wheel.
It's never your fault. All things elves outside of Eregion.
Yeah, not a whole lot here, except for the fact that you mentioned the geography thing and the time thing. So I always kind of look at all that stuff as kind of like the way that George writes POVs in A Song of Ice and Fire. In like that, you might actually cover over the same events more than once or something like that because you're experiencing it how the characters are experiencing it as opposed to an overall timeline. But other than that, what the heck's going on with Gil-galad? Can't divide my forces. Don't need to divide your forces, dude. I mean, well, it's easy for us to say because we know, but everything you need to know is right there in Eregion. Just listen to Elrond. He's right for once. And you know how he had to say that how he's right? Because he had to admit to his High King that Galadriel was right. I mean, you know how much that pained Elrond. Poor Elrond. After last week's discussion of what's worse, to have to say that Galadriel was right probably absolutely killed him. And then Gil-galad's not going to do anything about it.
Well, let's put things in perspective. Sauron, in their minds, was actually not in. He
was headed to Mordor,
troops.
right? Yeah, according to
he didn't have
spies.
Troops, and we know that at some point this was true. And Adar had a legion of orcs there. So from their standpoint, it was just a matter of talking to, letting Brimby know that Sauron was back. Don't let Sauron in. And then going to Mordor. But obviously things got lost in the way, let's just say. And the message was never delivered. So if you think that they are working with the information they got, they are doing a good, like the decision wasn't, it was not that hard to make. Thing is, Gil-galad has the ring. He saw something that might indicate that another path was better to be taken there. But I guess because the ring, it's a calculated risk that they kind of second guess all the time. Gil-galad especially, there's a lot of things, a lot of responsibilities and other things that he needs to consider when making a decision. But obviously, the thing is that in Tolkien's works, if I'm not mistaken, kind of that's more or less what happened. You know, they are fighting, they send people to defend Eregion, but it's too late, actually, the reinforcements that they send, because they were engaged in another fight. I don't remember the other fight, but they were engaged. So what we are going to get this in the adaptation is actually factually what happened in the story, but because of the time compression, they are just like, you know, putting another motivation, another like series. So yeah.
Well, that doesn't keep me from blaming Gil-galad for just not trusting his gut.
Well, his still looks good. Yeah, there's that.
And at the very end of the episode, of course, Galadriel's going to pull a knife on Adar. Of course, Adar is going to find a way to flip it around on her and tell her, "Hey, I'm your friend." Right.
We are all friends here, right?
For now. Yeah, for now. Until I get what I want, and then I'll try and take care of you too, because that's what Adar does.
I don't hope to see others surviving this season, to be honest. So
I don't either. I mean, if they're going to kill Valander, still, I mean, might as well kill Adar too. They're about as worthless as each other. So
Valandir is worthless. No, oh my god. Okay, let's go to Númenor then.
Okay, is that the only one we have left?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, when there's a population of 3 people out of thousands, and that are good, you know, it's the percentage doesn't really change of good people. So you might as well get rid of the guy who, you know. The cool thing is, and I've learned this from Lore, just reading other things this week. Evidently, Isildur names one of his children after Elendil. Now, not the same way. I think that there's a different meaning for it in the lore. But they have placed a really good story here to explain how one of Isildur's kids ends up with that name. So that's cool. Even though it's not lore accurate, at least it's still cool. Elendil, you know, I mean,
What a waste of
Númenor
life.
overall. Númenor overall.
It was
Númenor
terrible.
is a scene from Dead Poet Society, basically a message about how going against the church is bad, and an opportunity to give the Joffrey of podcasts something to scream about. So, what were your thoughts about any of this? Poor Elendil, rest in peace. Even though he had like 7 lines the whole series.
Look, from now he had more. From the characters we met, Númenor, the characters that we have in Númenor right now, they're like.
I mean,
I'm 3. No. Let me.
The wave should just come and get it over with.
We have 5, right? 2 are very good people, and 3 are like among the worst people that it can ever exist, because they are not only evil, as you said, like in a very almost comical way, evil, but they are annoying. The way they are played, it's like Ar-Pharazôn is a little bit. He's annoying his own annoying way, because he's a ridiculous man. Like,
well, you can blame this on Sauron too, because Sauron is what he's doing is he's laying all the seeds. He's talking to Pharazôn through the Palantir here, and he's basically saying, "Hey, man, you need new aqueducts. You need this kind of thing." I'm not so certain that Pharazôn thought about Valinor when he was talking about, the quest for immortality. That Sauron won't be planting that in his head as well, which really leads to the lore incident that kind of triggers
what Sauron does is that he sees the weakness and he explores the weakness. This whole thing about immortality, it has been there already.
Well, yeah, because he talks about it before he goes to the Palantir. But I'm just saying that it'll be reinforced. Sauron will find a way to reinforce it, just like he did here, where it's causing division. Sauron realizes, and even we hear this throughout the course of the entire trilogy, that Sauron fears Númenor more than anything else. He's got to get rid of it. So he's finding any way possible to get rid of that place.
Yeah, the thing that really annoys me about Númenor as a whole is, one, I think the fandom had this. The fandom always wanted to see Númenor depicted. I was not part of this. I never wanted to see Númenor depicted, because it's basically Tolkien's take on Atlantis, which is, to me personally, holds no interest, And if you go to Tolkien, Eru-Ilúvatar, like the god, he's displeased. He sends a wave and destroys land. Like, he gets disappointed in you, in your choices, as a people. No question. He just drops a big wave and gets a chunk out of a place, submerged into the sea. That's how Eru-Ilúvatar rose in this world. So the whole point of Númenor creation by Tolkien was always to be destroyed. So you already come from that. I personally, when I'm listening to a story, when I'm reading a story, most of the times I don't go into construct a story from the end to the beginning. There is always like some sort of problem, because it doesn't engage me in a way. So, coming to think of that, what I expected to the plot of Númenor is like interesting characters. There were only 2 interesting characters in the first season, and there are only 2 interesting characters in the second season. They are the same. and they are on the same page. There's Elendil and Míriel. Pharazôn is a piece of. He's terrible. He has always been terrible. So there is like no, no progression with him. He was terrible when he was working under Míriel. He's terrible now, but he's king. That's the only difference. Eärien, she has always been a bad seed. She has always been like, oh, my father doesn't give me attention. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, this guy is. And then she meets Cam and, oh, this guy took me to dinner. Oh my God, I'm so glad. And Cam has always been like this. So there is no difference. And I think with Eärien, they try to depict how a family would fall out with each other, for political reasons, how a family would break. But I look at Eärien, I don't see an intelligent person. I don't see somebody who has any great views of or any aspirations or any sort of deep personal philosophical questions. Pharazôn at least has this whole thing about the immortality that he thinks it's unfair that the elves have them and they don't. Eärien, what she thinks, she doesn't sound anything remotely close to an intelligent person to me. And Kemen is just, he could be a 13-year-old boy and he would be the same. Mm-hmm. Because he hasn't, and I like, but that's the difference. I kind of like to hate Kemen. Eärien, I'm just annoyed by her. So you see, that's what I'm saying with the Númenor thing. Yeah. The only people that you really care, the only people that really feel real and human are Míriel and Elendil, and they're on the same side. It would be very interesting to the story to have a compelling villain or somebody on the other side that offer you compelling reasons to be on the other side.
Right. I agree. That, as I said at the top, they're just all one-dimensional. The only bad guy who doesn't seem one-dimensional to me is Sauron.
I don't think Pharazôn is one-dimensional.
I do,
actually. No, I tell you, I don't think, because of the whole spiritual thing, that he's really preoccupied with that. But he doesn't sound very how do you say, he's not fully realized.
All he does to become king is stand in front of a damn eagle. I mean,
yeah,
that's show me that you plan somehow and summon the eagle. Show me that you're smart enough to do that, or something to that effect, in order to make me believe in you. But otherwise,
it's just making a point to show that Númenor has to be destroyed at some. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. To me, I'm like, bring this wave, please. Bring this wave and take Númenor.
I'm with you.
I haven't seen any person from the population of Númenor that is nice so far. They're all terrible.
Yeah. So based on the lore, what was Elendil? I mean, I know that they've changed to where the Palantir can seemingly look into the future, which is not something that is really expressed in the books. You can sometimes see into the past, but it's mostly just a communication device, right? So
it's mostly a communication device, but you can see from the past. But I think with the whole thing about the steward, I forgot his name is that he was kind of seeing images, right?
Yeah, but they were given to him by Sauron. Exactly. He was actually communicating by Sauron. So, but was that what was happening with Míriel as well, with the wave? Or is this something that, I mean, it doesn't matter. My point is, what the hell is it that Elendil was seeing? when he looked into the Palantir. He described it. He says, I'm riding away into a forest. Is that him fleeing Númenor as the wave comes? What is that?
No, I think it's not that.
Okay.
I think he goes west first. Because he has in the show, his other son, Anarion, is in the west, and the west is the place where the faithful are. So there is also this narrative that Númenor is divided. They just happen to be in the part where it was took over by the Ar-Pharazôn faction. But actually there is a faction in the west that keeps the old ways, so to speak. My interpretation was, because we know from the lore that at some point in the future, Númenor goes down by such an awful path that they started worshiping Morgoth. Basically, they start like having human sacrifices and all this stuff. So my guess is that we see a last ditch effort from the faithful to take over Númenor. That fails, he goes west, and from west he joins his son and he goes away. That's, I think, what he's saying there.
Okay.
So
Isildur's never gonna make it back to Númenor. Then he's seen Númenor for the last time. You think?
Isildur likes this girl. I think he will stay with this Astrid. I don't know. I don't think there is a boat like ready to go for Isildur, unless I think he might actually go back to Númenor. You know why? I'm asking, you know why? And you have to ask, no, why, Priscilla?
No, why, Priscilla?
Because someone has to go back to Númenor to tell them that Sauron is back. And Númenorians have to go back to Middle-earth under Pharazôn to defeat Sauron. And actually they defeat Sauron. And then they have to bring Sauron to Númenor in the third season. So who best to go there than Isildur?
Okay. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
And Isildur has to actually get the sapling of the tree also.
I've got 3 words for that. I don't care. Speaking of which, 3 words is next. What were your 3 words for this episode, Priscilla?
Digging their graves.
See, that couldn't possibly be about everybody. I mean, Celebrimbor, Númenor, everybody's digging their own graves, for crying out loud. The dwarves.
The dwarves, yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. Mine was Dead Poet Society, which isn't much better. But, you know, thank you, my captain. It just reminded me of a bunch of people when they stood up on their desks going, oh, captain, my captain. In that scene in Dead Poet Society. Come on. Do better.
It's beautiful.
Do better.
It's beautiful.
Do better. What were your 3 words? Well, we didn't get any for this week yet, but I said that same thing in the last podcast, and then I got some for last week. So let's take a look at these. Harley Camille on the site formerly known as Twitter. That's Camille, a great loyal listener. That's a double L of the Double P Media stuff. Says finally. That's the 3 words, and then 3 more. We meet Bombadil. Excellent, Camille. Excellent. And our good buddy Hamlet is Dead also says, please hug me. I don't know to which storyline that was referring to, or maybe just all of it. But yeah, I'm not gonna do it, Hamlet. I'm not gonna hug you. Sorry. I got no.
Oh my God.
I've got no hugs to give this week. What about our Ring of What about our Ring of Power award? I left mine specifically blank. I don't know that anybody gets a Ring of Power for me this week, but you have some here. What do you got?
I think you should give me the Ring of Power. Then.
You?
If you don't want to give to someone else, give it to me, and I will give to Sauron because he needs rings of power.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass.
My Ring of Power goes to Durin. He is the voice of reason. He looks at Anatar and all he sees is like, this guy is sus. So yeah, like he has been more right than wrong, and I really loved like his fight to get his dad to be his dad again. Not only his king, but his dad again. And he's failing. He knows he's failing, and he cannot do anything about it because the king holds all the power in their society. And there is some point that Durin and Disa, they understand that they are kind of doomed there. And Disa is like, please don't wear this ring. And he says, I'm not wearing this ring. But again, they have been consistently good throughout the both seasons, so it's no wonder. It might be the best part to be played because it's like he's always sympathetic. He always has his family's and his people's best interests at heart. He's always trying his best. Yeah, I really like it.
You know what? You've convinced me. There is someone in the dwarf storyline who deserves a Ring of Power, and that is the shopkeeper who managed to double his price, or at least raise the price by 50% on Disa for that worthless stone that ended up, I mean, it wasn't even a good stone. It shattered when she dropped it, for crying out loud. He sold her a bill of goods. And for that good corporate menace, I give the Ring of Power award this week. I did not win Rings of Power awards in the feedback. Lots of feedback this week, including some just very hateful feedback that I'm not including in this podcast. Well, you'll see at the end of all this string. We did get some bot comments on our YouTube videos, and one of them was particularly annoying to me about the race of elves and all kinds of things, which I'm not going to give credit to here. But I just want to say, you know, of all the things that they've made changes to Tolkien lore about, this is the thing you're worried about the fact that there's Asian and black elves? Come on, get over yourself. You're an idiot. Anyway, Patman23, who always offers good feedback. He's a loyal listener to the Double P as well. And he is my nemesis. He has always been my nemesis. He will forever be my nemesis. He is my internet nemesis.
He is my friend. It's like, no, he's my nemesis.
He is my favorite nemesis ever to have. Patman23 on a site formerly known as Twitter, and he's on Blue Sky and all those other places. He also writes great blog posts about House of the Dragon and other great television, so you should check him out. I don't remember. It's patspinagle.com, I believe is the website. Anyway, Patman says this: Matt, I want you to know I've been enjoying your Rings Power coverage, especially your co-host's unabashed crushing on Sauron. Boy, that's right. I'm glad you can put up with it. I find myself once again as your nemesis, as your investment in Tom Bombadil, a ridiculous and useless character, has me shaking my head in dismay. You are allowed to like Tom Bomb, and I appreciated your J. Giles Band musical analysis. For me, Adar remains the most interesting addition to the Middle-earth lore. A proto-orc who opposed Sauron is, I feel, a breath of fresh air and a classic take of orcs as bad guys. I'm a fan of that one orc, Glug, trying to talk Aldor out of prosecuting a major action to hunt down Sauron, since that's probably what Sauron is counting on to get the orcs out of their relative safety in Mordor and bring trouble to the Westlands. Anatar, hey, you kings of men, got orcs running around in your lands? I'd bet you'd like to have some magical weapons to help secure your borders. King of Agmar. I sure would, and so would my fellow other 8 kings. Exactly, Patman. It's true. It's all part of Sauron's plan, without doubt. Now, something that we need to understand about Patman is, just as I am anti-Disa, Patman is pro-orc. So if you're a fan of orcs, Patman, my nemesis, is your guy to seek out on the social medias for certain. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate the feedback. We did get some mixed reactions to our podcast and to the episode 4 of season 2. All these coming from YouTube.
Not for our podcast, for the episode. Our podcast has always been receiving rave reviews.
We got more views this week than we'd ever had before on the YouTube channel, but I think it's again because of the bots. Reviews. Yeah, listen to her. Yeah, what she said. Wait a minute. So Aka says this. Hold on. They did a second season of Rings of Power? Oh my God. Why? It was so bad. Like a really bleep series. Maybe the worst ever. And then a smiley face. I don't, or maybe that's a tongue sticking out. But thank you for that bot comment. Now, no, somebody else liked the episode. This is Carlson. This is Jeff. Carlson JF on YouTube. This was a great episode. Favorite of the season so far. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Reliving History, on the other hand, gave a quite extensive reasoning as to why they didn't like this episode. Said it was a terrible episode. Another Tolkien character butchered by the Rings of Power, Tom Bombadil. Bombadil doesn't care about the outside world. Yet in this series, he seems very gloomy and seems to care about matters that shouldn't matter to him. He speaks riddles, but does it in a dark, sad way, literally the opposite of Tolkien. Bombadil is supposed to be overly joyous and always singing happily, not to mention that what they've done to Gil-galad, who is a power-hungry moron with an IQ lower than the average human. The High King, Galadriel, is not even worth mentioning, so it's lamentable what they've done with her character, and Celebrimbor is one of the stupidest beings in all Middle-earth, the master craftsman who doesn't know what an alloy is. I could go on and on. Not so subtle political messages, which Tolkien detested in his Legendarium, poor casting, and terrible writing overall. No wonders Addar's actor left. Okay. Thank you, Reliving History, for that extensive reasoning as to why evidently you're still watching the series as much as you hate it. Just like some of those people that Priscilla was talking about earlier when we were talking about the news. And check the Hollywood Reporter article. And I think that you fit right into that crowd. Yes. Who says, now Sauron has been... Ooh, Priscilla, I think this is directed at you. Now that Sauron has been revealed, viewers will become very disinterested if he keeps appearing all the time. The uniqueness about Lord of the Rings was that we never really got to see Sauron at all. What do you say to that?
But we never got to see Sauron at all at Lord of the Rings because he had already lost his fair form, his ability to take form. So that's why, as a person of taste and a person of standards, he would not reveal himself in other form than his most sublime form. So he just stayed out. You know, he just let others do the talking to him because he was
that most beautiful form was the black spaghetti, right? That was the form. That was the most beautiful, right?
Well, I think for this for the series, it took like some centuries until the black blue turned into Halbrand, right?
Yes, I agree.
And he was just like beaten to death, stabbed to death multiple times by
all I'm saying, Priscilla, is that when Sauron looks in the mirror, he sees that form of black spaghetti. He doesn't see anything else.
I think actually he sees what Mindara sees, but he thinks he's beautiful anyway.
Okay. Kesha says this. She really enjoyed your Sauron love. She says, "Sorry, I'm here for Sauron," which is something you said last week, and gave it a laughing emoji. So excellent. This comment, I don't have no idea. This might be a bot comment itself. No wood says pictures are made to entertain. If you want to send a message, call Western Union. I could be directed at some of the what people are perceiving as political messages. To me, they're just common sense messages, but if that's what you want to do. Anyway, that's a quote from Samuel Goldwyn that Noel left us. And Nick Fox, thanks for pointing out the obvious. Bot comments are everywhere, especially on that particular video. Let's look at
you know why? You think it was Sauron? That he wanted more
Sauron,
love?
Yeah. Well, as long as Sauron keeps increasing our views, Sauron can do what he wants, as far as I'm concerned. Polls. Oh, this has never happened before. We did a what's worse last week. What's worse, having to understand that Galadriel is actually always right, or being stuck with a ring that you think no one should have. I guess this is if you're Elrond. This has never happened before. An exact tie, 50-50. It's almost like two people voted and one voted for one and one voted for the other.
What about the bots? The bots don't vote?
So let's do a tiebreaker here right now, Priscilla.
Are the bots illegal citizens?
We won this election, even though we didn't win this election. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. It's never happened before. It'll never happen again, I'm sure. Let's see. What's worse? Finding out that you have to face not only Sauron, but another Istar as well, or having to learn magic from a dude who does sing-alongs with goats and lambs. You can only guess. It was close. So really, technically, Priscilla can pull the trump card and say she won the election. And here comes January 6th. But I was the one who said sing-along guru, 55.6%. So I'm the winner. I'm winner, chicken dinner. That's me on that one. And I'm going to brag about it because I don't get too many victories around here. And then what's worse, being a store abandoned by the burrows or being a Harfoot and realizing that because of the burrows, you don't really have a home. Priscilla clearly won this one. Being a Harfoot is worse. That's the point that she argued because Priscilla is, in fact, always right. Remember, that's 1 and B. So that's the rules we go by right here. The gun guidelines, the double G's. Polls. This was our final poll results for last week's episode. 32.3% of you thought it was great. 29% thought it was good. 22.6% only thought it fair. And 16.1% thought it poor. So that's the most mixed ratings that we have. As far as this week goes, the polls are still open. So please feel free to go out on them. We've also got our What's Worst questions for this week out there as well. Please vote out them at Bust Blockbuster on Twitter. And you can always leave comments with me or with Double P Media at Double PHQ on just about every social platform except maybe OnlyFans. And how would you rate Season 2, Episode 5, Rings of Power? And 50% so far think it's great. A third of them think it's good. 4.2% think fair. And 12.5% think poor. That is all the feedback that we have. That is all the podcasts that we have. Priscilla, you have already covered this week's episode. I'm assuming it is out on your YouTube channel now. Priscilla TV1 on YouTube, correct?
Yes, it's correct.
All right. Looking forward to seeing that. I haven't seen it yet. Sorry. Normally I try to watch it beforehand, before we talk. So I get I get a sense of how to attack you during the course of this podcast, because I won't play with your hair, but I will just go at every point that you think is strong. That's the way it goes. And you do the same thing to me, and you know it. You go at me.
No, I'm very nice.
She's like Sauron. She is not very nice. See ya.
Come on. No, that Sauron is nice. He's just lying, but he's nice.
Sure.